recite, first learn recitation.
Okay, well, I'll just start asking some of these questions before I sort them out. Which books on Hatha Yoga should be studied?
Means modern books or old texts?
Both.
That is not what it is, okay? That is your edition.
Exactly. I have some value here.
See, old text. Hatha Pradipika, Ghiran Samhita, and Shiv Samhita. And among the modern, you know better than me. Because every day in the market there are so many books. Again the question comes, what aspect of Hatha Yoga? Because there are so many disciplines going on nowadays. So I have not much knowledge of modern literature. All must be there.
I don't at the moment. I think part of the challenge is there can be a good literal translation, quality of Sanskrit academic. That's one, but then it's a little dry and it doesn't have the nuances, subtleties, experiential knowledge of practice. And then others who are like yogis might not have enough practice knowledge. And I think a lot of it is though one practices a lot, actually where are you pinpointed, directed in your practice, see? 20 years and I'm doing an hour or two a day and a few days a week, right? But what does it consist of, where is it going, etc. Might have a huge difference obviously in effects, experience, and then what one ends up even trying to explain in terms of practice and what it can culminate in. So then you might get some different statements. It's just like I say even about asana, you could explain it very well in a physical sense. This muscle, this thing, this, that, but really, those things might happen and that's not really its purpose or where it's at. But of course you could highlight that and then you'd miss some of the other aspects of it. So it's, I think, the same with the other stuff. So then that makes it difficult in the market on these books, these things.
But one thing I would suggest, always first form your opinion. Otherwise you will be confused. You are telling something, another person something, third person something. That becomes little problematic. So first you read, text, read. On the text, books are written, read. Practice, have experience, then read whatever you want. You will be able to decide, yes, this is wrong. It is only hypothesis.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Read a lot, and then you can kind of
form your opinion.
Like there was this book I picked up 2 years ago, red and white book with about 21 different accounts on Kundalini. You know, it was called Kundalini, the book, and you know, it's disappointing to read because what you see are accounts of chronic disturbance misnamed as Kundalini, and people saying my mind moved this way and that way. That's very clear. No one actually could describe a genuine experience as we understand it. Yet it was kind of hailed, and some, I suppose, psychologists, doctors, sort of heading it as, you know, the book of real accounts. And it's really more a book of misunderstood accounts, I suppose, you know. But then at the same time, it's good to like look at, read, etc., see what's going on. What's his name again? Gopi Krishna. Then, you know, you could read him, and he's a more genuine case, and you could see more specific. I mean, that's kind of you reading our experience with effects of Hatha in an account that's a little more accurate, you know. And there's about 3 or 4 books from him, and he was hoping to set up the scientific approach, and I suppose that's where we're all culminating, going to, of this experience that isn't just mystical and out there, something real.
Lead also.
Huh?
Lead
better. Yeah. The
long way.
And his one is highly questioned and debated, but he was part of the theosophy stuff.
Krishna, what's that?
Gopi Krishna. Waking on the Kundalini. There's 3 or 4 that are of good interest, value. They're a little bit more.
He suffered for years, didn't he?
Huh?
After Avalon.
Yeah, Arthur Avalon, who's known as John Woodruff. Yeah. So his book, both Shakti, I think it is, isn't it? And the other one is Kundalini. But he takes a very, I suppose, high-minded, with literal translation aspect of it, you know, of what is being said in the Tantra. Gopi Krishna.
Yeah. So what happened to him? Because he suffered for like years.
He went, what he explains, because he didn't have a teacher actually, you know. But, you know, he wrote to...
He went through much torture.
Yeah.
And you could say that with torture was pre-Kundalini, actually it was up the right till it settled. Because he even says it took him 8 or 9 years before, some of the real thing happened. So he was off track, so he was technically in Pingala. That's why all those crazy things were going on. And now back to Nettie. Is there a question on that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was my question about the book.
Yes.
So, for example, this one, Hatha Yoga Pradipika.
Sachidananda? Who is that?
Yeah, it's Bihar.
Yeah. It's so different. The transport.
I think it is 4 chapter only.
Yeah.
Yes, true. But how to address or how to address the fact that they are written differently. I mean the English.
No, you know, one thing you should understand, that don't misunderstand because I am pleading for Kaviraj. This is a work of research. We have gone through more than 100 manuscripts. Then we published. Still, you know, just like I told you that some things are still to be improved because I gave example, Pratah Madhyan Dine Sayam Vardharatriya Chikam Makan Shanair Ashit Parentam Chaturvaram Sam. So we thought because Sanskrit is a language, you can take this way or that way. So we thought 80 around 4 times, though there was a difference. Then we came to have the manuscript of Shiva Samhita. He speaks of the same thing, but he says no, 20, 20, 20, 20, which seems to be very correct time-wise. That we are going to improve in the next edition.
So in other words, some can be their own take on it. What he's saying is the one, that one there, is based on gathering, as many texts, old texts as possible, and trying to come up with what is more original, I suppose, or authentic. And it's still room to improve.
For reading, then comes the Yoga Upanishad also, Upanishad, Yoga, and there.
I think the one thing to watch in the yoga world is what is the difference between understanding the knowledge and the experience and putting it out there, and what is, hey, our mode, our tradition, our institute is really great or authentic, and here's all the stuff we're writing and doing. Yeah. So one of the big organizations with a lot of money now, tries to fund certain studies around it. So that's a little off, see? But though I think by looking at the different materials, then you can start to discriminate. So just a quick question on neti, right? The kriya neti.
Neti.
Yeah. When doing neti, some water went into this person's left ear and hurt. They had some pain because of that. What would they do differently, or what would they do to help it?
See, water, sometimes it happens when you are having the wrong position. So instead of coming out, it touches there. And the best way for it is now here you don't have the mustard oil, but even the olive, I don't know olive, whether can be boiled or not, but sesame will be better.
Sesame oil.
And take garlic, boil it, garlic in the sesame oil, take the garlic out, let oil be cooled and put 2 drops. And that will correct the whole thing. Next day you can just rub the cotton. You have to be very particular in neti, this, because it goes through siphon. So you have not to do like this. First bring the chin. I remember Vastra Dhoti. So there are few people who can do very nicely, but sometimes done in haste create a problem. I remember I was in Rishikesh and Yogi Mahesh Ashram, one of his assistants came to my place, his whole thing was covered. I knew him, he knew me. I said, what has happened? Vasudha is not coming out. I said, from where you learned? No, I learned myself. I said, just first breathe normally, don't be. And I took one piece of grass and then it all came. So once in 1,000 it happened, this muscle, just like you hit here, it swells up. This muscle, when the edge of the Vastrapati touches it, but you have a warm water, drink immediately, there is absolutely no. But when you apply force, it becomes more problematic. So you should know pros and cons. Therefore the teacher is needed.
Ambassador Dowdy's swallowing the cloth. So this guy, he swallowed the whole cloth. Under the cloth. So you're supposed to leave a bit hanging out. I guess he was hungry. So in the Kriya, Uddiyana Bandha, what happens to the heart? The force of contracting, its speed of contraction?
Heart?
Yeah.
Nothing happens, it is working.
Yeah, I suppose the heart rate would not change.
It may change provided you fight with it.
If you do it correctly,
Then nothing will change.
yeah. So there's no excitation of the heart. You don't
Not
shift.
at all.
You don't shift into a stress mode. Otherwise, you actually wouldn't be able to do it because you'd be, your upper abdomen would get tight. You'd be, see? So you kind of do it with a totally free upper abdomen, and only your diaphragm moves. Your diaphragm is contracted, so it's a mild massage to the heart. And as the abdomen is pulled back as a result of that activity of the diaphragm, that's a suction, vacuum caused, so the benefit then goes on for the inner organs as well as the vascular system, or nerves, lymph, etc. Right? So the heart should be fine. Shouldn't stress you.
But Kriyas are wonderful, that's what I can tell you.
For whole life, huh?
Huh?
Whole life.
So long you can do.
And you're doing a couple every day anyway. Nauli, Agnisara, Kapalabhati already, A different type of question. Does having a family contribute to or detract from the spiritual journey and growth?
Not at all.
Not at all which? Contribute, not at all detract from.
Detract.
Does it contribute to?
Surely, provided you don't have fight with your wife.
What about the wife fighting with the husband?
It is the same.
Us
It
saintly
amounts to the same.
yogi men. Divorce is also okay on the spiritual path. Can be helpful. Gotta speak from experience. Okay, then I'll go to this. Based on a point you mentioned yesterday regarding Mula Bandha, so if they want you to elaborate more on the connection of Mula Bandha and how it could cause constipation, and therefore how to avoid this, given that we engage Mula Bandha in everything, or most practices.
See, Mool Bandha, remember, we have measured with some device that if you are doing when you are not ready, heat increases. Temperature of sphincters around, it increases. When it increases, the water evaporates, heat increases, automatically it leads to constipation. And it is sure, there is no doubt about Mool Bandha. If we are not prepared for it, then it will create constipation. Therefore they say, in the beginning when you are doing pranayama, it is like a Ashwini Mudra. You inhale, then you slowly contract the sphincters, both outer and inner. And when exhalation is complete, for few seconds you release it. Then again the same thing. Now, when your You have completed nicely, you can do without any problem. The kumbhak you have started. Then you can try. But in the beginning you should try only, okay, 5 rounds you did, then release for some time. Again 5 rounds, keep it for up to 5 rounds. When nothing is there, then you can keep throughout. So we have to, it is very, very important. Mulbandha, no question about it. But you have to be compassionate. Don't immediately start. It may not have effect in 1 day or 2 days, but then it is, there is an article of family on cecal constipation.
Yeah, if I may add, because the Mula Bandha is mentioned in the mudras in Hatha Pradipika, and then it's a practice done when your teacher asks you, in and of itself, which is strong, but often people take that as the interpretation, and that's inappropriate and it's counterproductive. So, even if I sit up right now, there's an element of pelvic floor contraction. That's Mula acting, right? Yeah, so it's learning how to train that, and at the very least maybe on, off, and again it's not actually ever squeezed, it's more like it's held, managed. And if it's held, it shouldn't give you constipation. If it's squeezed, it would create heat and give you constipation. So regarding Chandra Bedna, when and by whom was it decided that it was included in the list of pranayamas?
See, remember, this is not a traditional pranayama. Remember this thing very well. When Surya Vedan was there, then my teacher decided, just why not we experiment this side also? So if you say, is it a traditional pranayama? No. It is not traditional, it is not included in old texts. But as we got the result clear cut, that Shitali tackles with your pitta directly. It will not cool the body, it will dilute the pitta. But Chandravedan results are, it cools the total body. Hence, we have in our curriculum, Chandravedan. Not traditional. We openly say it is not traditional, not coming from any text. But just like, the traditional Dandadhavati was with a stem from the banyan tree. My teacher improved with the rubber catheter so that we can boil it. Same with the neti. Every day you had to change the made up of threads and throw it. So he brought this rubber catheter. Also few asanas, say Purna Matsyendra asana, there you will not find Ardha Matsyendra. But when experiments were done and we saw the same twist, because it is the spine twist, he says people, those who cannot do, and they want to have advantage of the twist of the spine, they can do Ardha Matsyendrasana. But this is just make it easy, keeping the benefits the same. Say Shalabhasana. Many people cannot raise both the legs together. So he made it Ardha Shalabhasana. Technique is the same, there is no compromise in the technique. But to make it little easy so the common man can practice, he made it Ardha Shalabhasana, Ardha Matsyendra. That was his effort. And also, as he always was doing experiments. So, this was, he always welcomed this type of thing.
Yeah, and the next question sort of follows nicely along with that regarding. So, how do you see the relationship between tradition and innovation in yoga over the millennia? When does an innovator lose his lineage in your perspective? When is an innovation no longer yogic, and who decides that?
Really not very clear. I understand it.
Yeah.
Read it again.
Read it as it is.
Innovation is necessary.
Excuse me?
Innovation.
Yeah, so again, the innovation here might be loosely accounted for. One could be modifying Purna Matsyendrasana to Ardha Matsyendrasana. That's one. The other could be check out my new sun salute, or I don't know, whatever it is, my new Pastrika, something like that. So I suppose that's where the question is getting at, the scope of innovation, be it present or over the millennia, and so at what point is that diluting, or at what point is that preserving or improving the lineage as such?
See, the thing is, the word diluting is very fit. Fundamental is regarding the traditional technique of performing asana. See, asana literally means the posture. Therefore, in asana, final position is very important, which is to be maintained for some time. Now, how to reach that final stage? Either suppose you want to raise the hand, you can raise it slowly, or you can raise like this. One will be called an exercise, another will be just like a posture. So then that is for us, that is the meaning of Patanjali when he says prayatna shaithilya. While doing the posture, do as posture. It is not dynamic, it is static. So that is how we understood that he clearly says asana is one which gives you steadiness at the physical level and feeling of well-being at the psychological level. And how to do it? Then he says, prayatna shaithilya anant samapatya, with effortlessness, and maybe if your effort may be neglected because of mind. So he said, no, anant samapatya, try to have a center point, infinity, so that mind does not disturb you. And then he gives the result. Now, this has to be kept in mind. Even when you are simplifying something, the simplification should not result in diluting the technique of asana. That has to be maintained. Because asana is a position, it is a posture. So that is why, because so many things happened because of obesity, because of certain people cannot hold. So simplification, keeping the same technique and keeping the same result. That was the main thing why it was done. Innovation cannot be done, no, he never said that. But it should be with these two things in mind. That technique should not be diluted and result also should not be thrown away.
Do you think that it's essential for the existence of yoga that there is a continual looking at it with an element of, I don't know if I call it innovation, but improvement, understanding, mild innovation?
No, see, if with the research we find something, that should be accepted, no question, because he also started research for this, for many things were there where he has exposed so-called yogis. I repeat you, that Swami, I have already told you, who used to go in Samadhi. There was another person who will say, I can burn lamp with my urine. We invited, okay, let us see what. And we found he used to suck the oil beforehand by middle nollie. So he was exposed. He never protected anything which is not yogic. You see, if you read the letter which he wrote to Krishnamacharya, he said, don't mix up physical exercises with yogic asanas. Frank, very frank. And can you think, in 1917, he started doing researches which were published in 1924. The first Yogamamsa research journal was published in 1924.
The question comes from me as a result of yesterday's discussion.
Chitkari?
No. on this lineage issue. What you are saying out of respect for your teacher is, no doubt your teacher was in a position to decide this is yogic and this is not yogic. Somebody else could say, well, why? There was acrobatics and I include them into yoga.
Acrobatic.
I include them into yoga. The goal is to reach self-realization. If that helps millions of Westerners to reach self-realization, then it's totally yogic and not non-yogic. So there's the position of your teacher who says it's wrong.
No, acrobatic will be acrobatic. How can it say acrobatic is yoga? Yoga cannot be acrobatic. Acrobatic cannot be yoga.
There's something called acro yoga. Obviously, I'm not teaching it, but it's all over the place. Acro yoga in the United States is a term.
That is linked to yoga.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is your teacher took elements like modern science, and that had nothing to do with yogic because they were not existing when tradition was there. And he said, wonderful, I use these paradigms, natural science logic, and I apply it to yoga. And that is totally fine with me.
Not apply, scrutinize, look.
I use it to understand yoga more.
Yeah.
To promote yoga.
To separate the wheat from the chaff. It's
No,
something-
if I tell you, there is no objection. If whatever you are innovating, it leads to the same result what yoga conceives, then there is no harm.
And this is my point, that the acrobatic approach of Ashtanga, Vinyasa Yoga, somehow has made yoga very interesting for many millions of people who might not have been interested in the traditional form of yoga. And then these people come to here or to Kavalyadam and study pranayam, and maybe some of them will even have a Kundalini awakening. So why be against that? Why say you should not do that?
No, nobody says you should not do this. But result would justify everything. Understood?
Yes,
If your mind become more active, and on one hand you feel that your mind is becoming peaceful, then you will have to admit the results, no? You cannot preconceive that this is the result. Science would ask the proof, and we should be able to prove it. Then there is no question, everyone will accept.
So what is the end from a scientific point of view? How do you decide between, let's say, the method of asana practice at your institute?
We have much experimented. If you have visited our library, we have demonstrated. If done asanas as an exercise, the heart rate goes up, muscles, lactic acid is produced more, which accumulate, and the graph is like this. But the same asana done with don't misunderstand me, I am just not, this is the result what we obtained. When you do with the prayer, Saithilya, see the graph, it is just like cardiogram, normal.
And that's logical. If you have a more active form of bodily movement, you will have more sympathetic activity in the process.
Sure.
So the question for me is more over a 20 years period of doing this approach or doing that approach, how many reach the goal, and if one side reaches the goal and the other side doesn't,